So, welcome back to another one of my Pokemon challenges. As you can see from the title, I'm trying to beat Pokemon Firered using only the move Struggle. And I'm also trying to do it using one Pokemon. I know I could probably do it if I use 6 Pokemon, which is why I wanted to see if it was possible to do it in a solo run. I will also not be using items in battle and battle style set to set, though I probably don't need to say that because we only will be using one Pokemon. Anyway, we can use other Pokemon for HMs and stuff. And held items are allowed and items outside of battle are allowed. So first thing that I did was I reset the game until I got a Charmander with an adamant nature. That means though that it has less special attack and more physical attack. Struggle uses your physical attack, so we won't be using our special attack anyway, so that's the best nature for us. We will want, some good speed and defense and special defense to take enemy attacks. Now, you can only use Struggle when you run out of power points, and that's obviously impossible when we just start out. So the rule is, after this first rival battle, we can't use moves aside from Struggle in trainer battles, but we can fight wild Pokemon in order to get rid of our power points, which we will have to do. Struggle is a base power 50 move, and it is considered typeless in Generation 3, which is why I'm doing this in Pokemon Firered. If you try doing this in Pokemon Red, then, well, you would just lose because it wouldn't be able to hit ghost types, so that's why I'm doing it on a Gen 3 game. And now that we've beaten the first rival, we will not be using attacking moves other than Struggle in trainer fights. And now we have to get rid of all of our power points, which was a lot harder than I thought. The reason being is though that once we level up, we also gain moves such as Ember and Metal Claw, and there's no way to stop yourself from learning them. So here is very sped up footage of me trying to get rid of all the power points for my moves. And I was actually able to get all the way to level 15 just fighting wild Pokemon in Viridian Forest, trying to get rid of all of my power points. After all that happened, I decided to do the optional rival fight, which you can see here. I managed to win. Really, there's little strategy in this kind of run. You just use Struggle because that's the only move we have. One thing though that I could do was, well, my rule is I want to do this with one Pokemon, but that Pokemon doesn't have to be Charmander. Later on in the run, if I feel Charmander can't cut it, I could replace it with some other Pokemon. And I am allowed to evolve Charmander. Just so you guys know, I don't have to do this with just Charmander. I can evolve into a Charizard. And once I beat the optional rival fight, Charmander managed to evolve into Charmeleon. Now, Brock was kind of easier than I was expecting, but it wasn't, very easy either. Geodude I managed to take out with Struggle. It only knows Tackle, it doesn't know a rock move, so that wasn't much of an issue. The problem is his Onix, it knows Rock Tomb. But here's a little tidbit which I didn't know about before I did this challenge. Basically, Brock will only use Rock Tomb if it won't knock you out. So if Rock Tomb would be able to knock your Pokemon out, he'll use some other move. And that's something I didn't know about. Basically, Brock is programmed to, I believe, go easy on you in that way. So you can see I'm not doing that much damage to Onix, but because he's not using Rock Tomb, I'm actually able to win. And I have like 9 health left, so that was pretty close. But a win is a win, and I wasn't expecting to beat Brock first try, which is what happened. On the way to Cerulean City, I picked up the Helix fossil. I know if I didn't tell you guys what I picked, you'd all ask. But you guys should ask anyway, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm, and you should also sub to my dry bread. Now, while I was going to go fight Misty, this picnicker in her gym actually managed to knock me out, because she managed to confuse me and I got terrible confusion luck. So yeah, that happened. I was only level 23 when I went to go fight Misty, but I wanted to just see how well I would do versus her. I didn't think I'd be able to win because, well, here's a fun fact. I chose Charmander as my starter the first time I played Firered. And I got stuck on Misty because I had only trained up my Charmeleon. And that was when I was using moves like Slash and other stuff which didn't do recoil and they had higher power. And I still couldn't beat her even though my Charmeleon was like, I think, level 31. So I just knew though that I was not going to win, and yeah. After I lost, I reset so I wouldn't have to go into the wild and waste my power points again. Since I knew I couldn't beat Misty, I decided to try the rival. So we could go north, and so long as you don't get hit by Sand Attack too much by Pidgeotto, you should be able to win. And of course I got hit by it once, and I did end up losing this fight once, but that was because Squirtle got a critical hit on a water gun, but I won this round, which I'm showing you guys. I've also equipped an Oran Berry. Remember, held items are allowed, which is going to be important actually later on in this run. Now, because I don't want to heal at a Pokemon Center because that will restore my power points, I need a lot of healing items, and I have a limited amount of money, but there was a way that I could get around that very soon. On this route, you can catch Meowth, and Meowth has the ability Pickup, and in Firered, the way it works is though that it can pick up berries since you can't plant them. Also, it has a small chance of picking up rare candies, which is going to be important later. But anyway, here's the second rival fight. We are level 32, and we managed to win this. There's not much to say in a lot of these fights, we just use struggle over and over. And also, I did stream this entire playthrough, so if you want to see the entire thing, a link to it should appear on your screen right about now. With the second rival fight done, I would have liked to fight Lieutenant Surge, but you can't fight him until you can use Cut, and you can't use Cut until you beat Misty, and as you can see, Misty just knocked me out even though I'm level 33. However, with some luck with critical hits, I managed to beat her on my second attempt. So yeah, that's Misty. Lieutenant Surge also took a few tries because I kept getting paralyzed. Even though I had equipped a Cherry Berry, you know, I would make contact several times with Struggle, and I would still get paralyzed, but you can see I got lucky this time, and won. Just barely though, actually. My Charmeleon evolved in Rock Tunnel, and in Lavender Town, I changed its nickname from A to Guts, because you know he's the struggler. I also just want to say I made this stream and that nickname before Kentaro Miura sadly died. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. So sorry about that. I know this video is coming out after his death, but I just want to let you guys know I wasn't trying to be disrespectful or anything. So yeah, on to Erica. You would think Erica would be easy, but the thing is she kept poisoning me and paralyzing me. And yeah, I could equip a berry, but it was still luck based. And though she can't do a lot of damage, stuff like poison does add up, especially with recoil. And as you can see, she just took me out. So I decided to go fight Giovanni instead, and do the whole rocket subplot first. So onto the Lavender Tower rival fight. I sort of won this by the skin of my teeth again, because we ran into a problem we are going to run into a lot now. He has a Growlithe, and that has Intimidate, and that cuts our attack in half. Ironically, if he had sent out his Growlithe first, before he sent out his Wartortle, we probably would have been doomed, but because his AI thinks Wartortle is good against Charizard, he sends that out first. And yeah, we get hit with Intimidate, that cuts our attack, and we can't exactly switch out. So that is actually going to be a big problem moving on in all the rival fights, and there are also some other trainers who have Pokemon with Intimidate. But I did manage to eventually win this, even though I was put to sleep. I managed to wake up fast enough and take out his Execute, and then he just had one Pokemon left, his Kadabra. And thankfully I had enough HP to withstand the recoil. Once I got to Fuchsia City, I spent some time trying to catch Pokemon in the Safari Zone, and just catching Pokemon in general, using Pokeball sometimes, you know, when they're at full health, so that's less convenient than the Safari Zone. I wanted to bring up my Pokedex to 30 because there's this aid who will give you an item finder once you have a Pokedex of 30 Pokemon caught or owned, you know. And you can use an item finder on a spot where Snorlax is, so there are 2 spots where you can use it. And if you do that, you can dig up a leftovers I had no idea about this actually the first time I played this game, and it's very counterintuitive. Like, you wouldn't think to use an item finder on that spot. I actually figured that out when I read a guide. So, yeah, what Leftovers does is it heals you for 1/16 of your HP per turn. So, as you can imagine, it is extremely useful in this run. Erica still took a few tries, but with some luck I was able to beat her. The fight requires luck because she can status you, but otherwise it's not a big deal. Koga, however, is just not happening at this level. His Pokemon are super tanky and they can poison me. And yeah, I can equip a Pecha Berry, but they can poison me again. And then his Muck will use Minimize, so I went ahead and tried the Silph-Co rival fight instead. Even though I have leftovers, as you can see, it's not going very well. I barely do any damage to Blastoise and it does tons of damage with Water Gun. It's here though that I essentially ran into a brick wall. Even at level 51, I just couldn't beat Koga. And there's not much I can do aside from level up. So since I couldn't beat Koga, I went back to the Silph-Co rival fight to see if maybe I could beat him. And then challenge Sabrina. And even the rival fight here took a few tries. But with some luck, I was able to beat him, at least. I do a lot more damage to Blastoise, though I don't think you guys can even tell. And it starts spamming Protect, which is actually pretty good. Because Struggle doesn't have power points, so it's not like we can run out. And whenever it uses Protect, we don't do any damage to it. But Leftovers activates, and that actually helps us heal. And it was because it kept spamming Protect actually though that we managed to heal up quite a bit. And I think that's actually part of why we won, and we did get paralyzed. So, you know, very luck-based battle, but we managed to win. And Giovanni in Silph-Co was not too big of a deal. But he does have Rock-type Pokemon, and we are quadruple weak to that. And that is definitely going to come bite us back later on in the game. Yeah, we've just like barely managed to beat Giovanni. But I was hoping Sabrina would be a whole lot easier because, you know, she's a Psychic type trainer and her Pokemon have low defense. And I was right, I managed to beat her first try, no problem. Now, normally you could fight Blaine after this, but I still had trouble fighting Koga. I mean, not only do his Pokemon have very high base defense, so we do little damage to them, they can poison us. They can use Smoke Screen, and I can't switch out to a different Pokemon. And also his Muck can use Minimize. So this wasn't happening even at level 54. And so I had to train all the way up till level 62 in order to stand a chance. And even then though, this fight was kind of lucky. Like, I had to rely on not getting poisoned or Smoke Screened. And it took a critical hit also. I don't think that critical hit mattered, but you can see I get poisoned anyway. I equipped Leftovers and not a Pecha Berry because I thought it would be better for this fight, and I was right. And I managed to win because Koga, even though you can break out poison once, he can poison you again. And so it was time for Blaine. And it's here that the Intimidate problem comes up again. His Growlithe has Intimidate, so our attack is cut right at the beginning. And so our attack is lowered for the rest of the fight. And he also has an Arcanine. And because of that, our attack is going to be halved once we get to it. Thankfully, Blaine is not very good at fighting. He does some weird stuff. And so we managed to win anyway. And I have really sped up this footage because this fight took a lot of time. We don't do that much damage, but he can't do that much damage to us either. It's one of those situations. And of course we got a bit lucky with some Fire Blast misses, but Fire Blast doesn't do a lot of damage. And it can also, like I said, miss. And we can't get burnt. So in this fight of attrition, we basically win thanks to our leftovers mainly. I sort of expected Giovanni to be easy, but he wasn't. His Pokemon have very high defense. And his Raikou knows Rock Blast and we are quadruple weak to it. And then his Nidoqueen poisons us with Poison Point. Or we get hit with Body Slam and get paralyzed. So we were barely able to win at level 69. Nice. But the fact though that we just barely beat Giovanni was not a good, premonition for how the rival fight was going to go just before the Elite Four. Because I knew though that I was probably going to lose, but I decided to fight the rival anyway. And this is how it went. Thankfully, Blastoise knows Rain Dance, so it'll waste a turn doing that, rather than using some excellent attack. But, his Rhyhorn knows Rock Blast, and that took us out. And I did try this a couple of more times, but even at level 69, nice, we weren't going to be able to beat him. Because of that, I decided to go do the Sevii Island side quest to gain a few levels. And even after that, though, I didn't really gain that many levels. The thing is, though, that at this point, our best strategy to level up is to fight wild Pokemon and hope one of our Meowths picks up a rare candy. So at level 75, I was just barely able to beat him. And that was mainly because his Blastoise only knows Water Gun. It doesn't have Hydro Pump yet. And when it will have that for the champion battle, it is going to be a real pain. But that's something to worry about later. For now though, we managed to win. Even though we did get paralyzed, and yeah, this really took forever. That's another thing about using Struggle. Most of the fights are going to take a long time, even if we do manage to win. So, are we ready for Lorelei? Well, I didn't think so, and you can just see how this fight goes for yourself. Struggle doesn't do all that much damage to her Pokemon, and that gives her time to hit us with very powerful moves. And in the Elite Four, since everyone has 5 Pokemon, recoil damage becomes a big thing. It wasn't really that much of an issue when most Pokemon trainers only had 1 or 2 Pokemon. But over time though, that does become to weigh down on us. And her Cloyster does know Protect and it likes spamming it, so that's actually pretty good for us, since we can heal with leftovers. But she also uses Hail, and that does 1/16 damage, so that basically negates the power of our leftovers. And we were not even close to winning at level 78. So the best place to grind was in the Pokemon Mansion. I would just fight the wild Pokemon and then check my party of Meowths to see if one of them had picked up a rare candy. And that was how I leveled up. Can you guess what level I had to be in order to beat Lorelei? Level 98. And even then, it wasn't a guaranteed victory. I still could have lost, and I had to reset a couple of times just to get past her. But you guys must be thinking, Lorelei, or Lorelei, however you want to pronounce it, is a water-type user. She's technically ice, but she has water-type Pokemon. So that's why she was hard to beat, The other Elite Four members should be easy. Yeah, they weren't. And you can see we were put to sleep here, but that also sort of worked in our favor because we could heal up since we weren't taking recoil damage. And that was Lorelei, or Lorelei, whatever. But after this we had Bruno, and Bruno has several rock-type Pokemon. Not only that, his Pokemon have very high defense, so even though Struggle is a typeless move, our attack doesn't do that much damage to them. We managed to dodge a Rock Tomb, which was lucky, and our leftovers is healing us, but okay, Rock Tomb didn't do too much damage, but still. Actually, Onix has very low attack. However, we ended up losing our first attempt against Bruno. Mainly because his Machamp also knows Rock Tomb, and though we are at a higher level and have very good defense, because we're at a high level, compared to them, it still takes a big toll on us, and as you can see, there was no way we were going to beat this Onix, given how low health we were at. However, Bruno only ended up taking 2 attempts. The second attempt we managed to win, so we have that going for us. A critical hit here and there definitely did help with the victory. Also the fact though that his Rock Tomb missed. And another critical hit. So he probably didn't need to be this lucky in order to beat him. But even the moderate amount of luck was enough for us to beat him. Basically what I'm trying to say is we managed to win with a lot of health left when we were super lucky, but we probably could have won anyway, so long as we weren't too unlucky. And after that we had Agatha. And Agatha I was expecting to be easier. Pokemon don't have very high defense. And unless we got put to sleep or poisoned or something, I didn't really see how she could beat us. So yeah, Struggle almost one-hit KOs the Gengar, but not quite, and gives it time to use Double Team. And again, her Pokemon are very frail, so as long as something weird doesn't happen, then we can beat her. And of course her Arbok has Intimidate, which cuts our attack. But we did get a critical hit, which negates the effect of the Intimidate. So that was lucky. Also her Hypnosis missed. And that was also pretty lucky. I don't think that would have taken us down if he got put to sleep. Unless she got very lucky with Dream Eater doing a lot of damage. But we managed to beat this first try. So actually she was the only Elite Four member we managed to beat first try. But after her was Lance. And Lance, let me tell you, was an absolute nightmare. Now, the good thing was his Gyarados didn't have Hydro Pump, so it couldn't deal too much damage to us. But it did have Intimidate, and that cut our attack right at the beginning of the fight. Then he sends out his Aerodactyl, which has high defense, it knows Ancient Power, which is a rock move and quadruple effective against us. Also, Ancient Power can't miss, so he can't rely on that. And sometimes he would get that effect where it boosts all his stats. Most of my runs against Lance just ended on Aerodactyl. Sometimes I'd be able to beat it, because it would use Scary Face instead of using Ancient Power, and it wouldn't get the stat boost with Ancient Power, and those were the times I was able to beat it. But then I usually had so low health that I really wasn't able to do anything to his other Pokemon. Then his Dragonair would come out, paralyze me. That was kind of a double-edged sword, because although I couldn't attack as much, it also meant though that since I didn't attack, I could heal a bit with leftovers. But overall, it was bad for us because his Pokemon could still attack us. And this just wasn't happening. Like, I think it took me like 30 or 40 attempts just to get to his Dragonite. And I still ended up losing to that. So it got so bad that I realized if I wanted to beat Lance, I was going to have to level up to level 100 and then come back again. Because I'd actually used up all of my rare candies this far. So in order to level up, I had to let him knock me out, go to the starting of the Elite Four, and then come back after I had leveled up 2 levels. And that's exactly what I did. So this is my run at level 100. It's not much better, but I do a bit more damage, and I do take a bit less damage from my enemy. And you can see I managed to get to the Dragonite, and I'm paralyzed, which means I don't take recoil damage, so I get to heal up a bit. And I get a critical hit, which knocks me out, thanks to recoil. So while it was kind of better at level 100, because again our attack rose, our HP rose, all of our stats were a bit better, it wasn't like we were doing that much better. But I did manage to get this run eventually where I beat him. Yeah, I'm paralyzed, but again, paralysis actually helps us heal a bit. And this took a bit of luck against the Dragonite. We had to hope for it to get confused due to Outrage and then hit itself. And we also had to hope that we got paralyzed so we could heal up a bit using leftovers. And it hit itself in confusion again, and we managed to win. So yeah, that was pretty lucky. But I was amazed we managed to win. And there's one trainer even harder than Lance, actually. It's the Elite Four champion, If Lance was bad, then the champion was just awful. His Pidgeot could use Sand Attack, and in this generation, Struggle has accuracy. It can actually miss, unlike in later generations. Then he'd send out his Blastoise. It knows Hydro Pump, which it can miss with Hydro Pump, thankfully, but that's not very likely. And it can also use Rain Dance, which wastes a turn, in which it doesn't do damage, but that also makes its Hydro Pump much more powerful. So, although I was able to get past the Blastoise occasionally, I would usually have so little health for the rest of the fight that I just couldn't beat the rest of his Pokemon. Now look at this run, I actually have some very good health while going into Rhydon, but Rhydon knows Rock Tomb, and guess what? Rock Tomb does a ton of damage, so I also have to hope for Rock Tomb to miss if I want to get far into the fight. So when you take into consideration all of the lucky events that have to happen in order for us to win, we need to get lucky versus Blastoise with a Hydro Pump miss, we need to get lucky to not get Sand Attack or Feather Dance, we need Rhydon's Rock Tombs to miss. Yeah, it's not very likely to happen, and trust me, I managed to get far a few times, but it took like 10 tries just to get past the Blastoise, and eventually I wasn't having it, and I did something I'm not proud of here. I just decided though that I was going to use save states. I know a lot of you think save states are cheating, but I didn't use multiple of them. I just used a save state for when I got past Blastoise with a lot of health, and after that I kept reloading to that save state until I got a run where I managed to win. And I did manage to win, but I know a lot of you are not going to like it because lots of people think using save states is cheating. So right here is where I made the save state once I beat the Blastoise. And this is the run where I managed to win. Is Rhydon used Scary Face instead of Rock Tomb, and then Alakazam went down easy. Executor put me to sleep, but that gave me some time to heal up. It couldn't do a lot of damage to me. And then he sends out his Arcanine last, which is actually pretty good because it has Intimidate. If he sent it out before, I probably would have lost. And it doesn't do a lot of damage to me, but I got a critical hit at the end, and I won. One reason why I started using save states is actually because I was live streaming this, and on the day I was live streaming and about to beat the champion, I didn't want to spend several hours resetting. So I just actually wanted to do a rough calculation of whether or not it's reasonable that we could have beaten the champion. Now let me do some rough mathematics. I managed to get past the Blastoise about every 10 attempts, and I think I would have gotten a very good run with me taking very low damage, about 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 attempts past the Blastoise. Then it took me about 20 tries, even with save states, for me to beat the rest of his team. And again, I made only one save state after I beat the Blastoise and had very good health left. So I'm not sure how much you guys want to count that. Now, doing the math, if it took me 20 tries to get to that point and 20 more tries after that, that means it would have taken me 400 tries in order to beat the champion. Now, is that a reasonable number of attempts? That's sort of up for debate. I managed to beat the game at 25 hours in-game time, which is pretty... that's actually pretty good. But of course that doesn't reflect the amount of resets I had to make, because I think just Lance was about 50 resets to beat him, even at level 100. So, is it reasonable to reset about 400 times or 600 times to beat one trainer, and to then say, yeah, I can win this game using this method? I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know whether you would consider having to reset 400 or like 600 times before a fight to be reasonable. I mean, technically speaking, yeah, you can beat all of Pokemon Firered using only one Pokemon and using only Struggle in battle. Aside from that very first rival fight. So I did technically win, but as you can imagine, this whole thing kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, I was thinking, was there a way I could win this otherwise? So I got to thinking whether there were any Pokemon better than Charmander to do this run with. The reason why I chose Charmander as my starter was so that our rival wouldn't have a Gyarados. If he had a Gyarados, he would have 2 Pokemon with Intimidate, and that would basically cut our attack down to nothing. And also Charizard has the best attack out of all of the starters, but Charizard has a bunch of weaknesses too. It's 4 times weak to rock type attacks. Maybe there was another Pokemon in-game which I could try to do this run with, and it would be a whole lot easier. I actually had several candidates in mind. One was Moltres. Moltres has the same type as Charizard, but it has way better stats, at least in some areas, so I thought I could do it with Moltres. Also, it occurred to me though that I hadn't EV trained my Charizard to be optimal for fighting like this. I would have given it a whole lot more HP EVs. But if I, decide to train another Pokemon to do this run, then I would be able to train that one perfectly, EV-wise. And if I didn't want to pick Moltres, I could have picked a Pokemon like Snorlax. The reason why I liked Snorlax was because it has a large amount of base HP, so it gets to heal a lot with leftovers. So that was basically my criteria for choosing another Pokemon. Either it had to have a good attack stat, or if it had a massive HP stat so it could heal with leftovers, I thought it would be good. Only thing is Snorlax is weak to fighting type attacks. I do not know if it would be able to defeat Bruno. And in the end, this whole thought experiment went nowhere. Like, I didn't end up trying this with another Pokemon. I just said, yeah, I technically did the challenge and I obeyed all the rules I had set up, so it's fine. But I'm still open to doing this again with a different Pokemon. So if you guys have an idea for Pokemon which you guys think can do this challenge, what I'll do is in this same save file, I'll try to catch that Pokemon and I'll raise it to level 100. And we will try to beat the Elite Four with it using only Struggle. So if you have an idea for that kind of Pokemon, leave it down below. If you like this video, then please leave a like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone.